Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody who joined us here. My name is Olga Atamanova, and Ukraine Media Center Ukrinform starts its operation today. It's year 9 of the war and day 328 of the heroic resistance of the Ukrainian people. And I traditionally want to thank the representatives of all the mass media who helped telling the world the truth about this war. Our brief schedule for today is as follows. Joining us in this studio at 1400 will be Alexander Harchenko, the director for Energy Industry Research Institute, and we'll talk about the condition with the power grid. And at 1500 visiting us will be Yuri Shigol, the head of State Service for Special Communications and Information Security, and we will talk about the very important topics, the main objectives of the enemy hackers. So bear with us and follow our announcements. And joining us right now online is the military governor of Rivne region, Vitaliy Koval. Good afternoon, Mr. Vitaliy. Good afternoon. Let's start with operation situation in the region. We all follow all the news about the border between your region and Belarus. What's the situation there? How is the preparation to the purported offensive is going on? So please give us a few comments on that. Yeah, really, it's day 328 of our daily, that we hear daily about the purported offensive from the north of Rivne region. And we got tired of listening to all those forecasts. We don't divinate on the coffee, and the situation, I can tell you, is as follows. 229 kilometers of the border are infringible. There is no concentration of the enemy forces observed on their side of the border, but it doesn't mean that within the next days or weeks or months the situation is not about to change. So there is a task set by the President of Ukraine, and there is the understanding of our tasks in coordination with the operations group of Volyn forces, but we keep reinforcing our engineering structures. We prepare the landscape to meet the enemy, and we have a full understanding, full synergy, and we understand that we should use every hour, every day for reinforcement. Today, Rivne region is stronger than yesterday, and tomorrow it will be yet stronger. It's a permanent process, and we will never stop to prepare the lines of defense until the very day of victory. Thank you for this information. Mr. Vitaliy, what's the situation with the power grid in Rivne region? Are there any emergency power shutdowns implemented, or everything goes according to the schedule? Yes, unfortunately, just like all of Ukraine, we suffer the lack of electric energy. We have the joint power grid, and even the fact that we have the nuclear power plant in our region that keeps operating today under normal mode, that there are repair works in progress on one of the blocks, but the rest of the blocks are operating in normal mode and they generate electric power. But there are restrictions, and the amount of the electric power we're getting is not sufficient. That's why there are scheduled rolling power shutdowns in place. The population is our priority, but let's not forget about the industry, because we have to keep the jobs, we have to keep the inertia that we had in year 2022. The region coped well with the challenges of the martial law. We got more tax income comparing to previous year, and it's very important to continue this positive dynamics. As to the electric power, is the sufficient amount of megawatts, and we don't have emergency shutdowns for the time being. You mentioned the Rivne nuclear power plant. We understand how important is this facility for our power grid. So how ready are we to protect this facility? We already have an experience, sometimes it's a negative experience of Energodar and Chernobyl nuclear power plant, so all lessons are learned. So today the defense of the nuclear power plant is #1 priority. It's a top priority, it's the biggest employer of our region. 7,700 jobs are provided by this facility. The town of Varosh is the satellite town. The defense is prepared. The territory of the town is broken down to the districts of responsibility. There is constant cooperation and communication between all the defense forces, armed forces, territorial defense forces, National Guard, and patrol police. And we realize it's only 60 kilometers from the border that this nuclear power plant is located from the enemy. But those 60 kilometers are impossible bogs and forests and deeply echelon defense of our region. Well, you mentioned about the growth of local budget income. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, it happens due to relocation of our business and a huge number of internally displaced persons. And regarding those internally displaced persons, what is the dynamics? Is there a growth in population of your region? Well, I'll start with from the end of the question. Yes, we have a positive dynamics. It's around 1,200,000 people in Rivne region. It's 47,000 more people than it was before the February 24. The region accepted 84,000 of such internally displaced people as of today morning. There are 59,239 persons left of those internally displaced. There is a daily migration, maybe like 100 new people internally displaced coming, and around 150 leaving the region. We don't see a huge inflow of the internally displaced persons now. Meanwhile, we expected it with the advent of winter, but the situation is stable, so I would call it stable in Rivne region as well. And as to the growth of the budget income, it happens due to the stable operation of the businesses. We see that such programs as 579, they widen the business and its advantages to work honestly now, because the government pays back business those tax losses, I would call them. That's why I'll give you only one figure: to 2,400,000,000 during full-scale invasion. This is how much the banks of the Rivne region extended in loans to the businesses. And it frees out the tax income, and thanks to the presence of the military, we have a positive outlook for year 2022 or 2023. Sorry. Well, the Rivne region was associated with amber for Ukrainians before the full-scale invasion. So what's going on with the legalization of amber mining? I would call it not just with amber, but illegal amber, at least until the year 2019. I was hearing that Rivne region is the region of the illegal amber. But back in 2019, thanks to the initiative of President Zelensky, there was a law adopted for criminalization of illegal mining of amber, and now we already passed the point of no return. And to mine amber illegally is dangerous from the vantage point of criminal liability, because before 2019 it was only penalized in the amount of 3,400 hryvnia. Now there are 8 enterprises working in the legal field. Within the year 2022, we received 10,400,000 payments of rent, save for other taxes paid by those enterprises. So I'm only talking about the rent payments. It's a very big result. There was a 61 bid held, and 101 million hryvnia was paid to the state budget for operation of the land plots under rent. So the more legal businesses are in the area of amber mining, the less are the chances for the illegal miners. So comparing those indicators to 2021, how did they change? So we understand the dynamics. The dynamics for a number of payments is 4 to 7 times growth. It's not a percentage growth, but it's times growth. I can give you a good example, by the way, is when a relocated business, we have 39 such businesses. When they relocated from Mariupol, they moved to the north of the Rivne region, and together with the local business, they developed their mining spots for mining plots for amber. There is the 3 years plan. Thanks for the company which used to service Azovstal and bigger industrial facility. They fulfilled the plan within 6 months. So this is how we feel the synergy. Thank you, Mr. Vitaliy. We have questions in our studio. Please represent yourself. Irina Mamchur, Ukrinform. Just recently you stated, and now you just confirmed, that in the borders, in the north of the region, there is the construction of fortifications of the defense lines, the anti-tank trenches, fortification engineering installations. So all those 229 kilometers, are all of them equipped with such fortification structures? And also, could you say, was there any resolutions discussed for those fortification installations to make them more complex? Not just stop with the anti-tank trenches, but to build some capital structures. Is anybody talking about that, at least in future? Well, thank you. It's a good question. The last meeting with the president of Ukraine that we had back on Wednesday in Lviv, we discussed the issue of intensification of defense. We're talking not only about the temporary line of defense, but we understand that even after the victory, there may be still danger posed for us. So we approach this issue in a complex manner. 229 kilometers of border are all along bogs and forests that they are virtually impossible. Even a person cannot pass it on there too. Some of the lines are even dangerous. I can tell you, not even the beavers can pass there. Even how the military they are the ones who order those works on for fortifications, and us as the military administration, we ensure this coordination so that civil sector and the economy could provide the military with all the defense structures. They are not temporary installations, but they are capital installations. They are for years. They are with armament, they're with armor, with ballistic protection, and this is where we focus our efforts now. Thank you. Another question related to Rivne nuclear power plant. There were parallels we mentioned with Zaporizhia and Energodar. I'm curious, you said you learned some lessons and you studied their experience of Zaporizhia nuclear power plant, but we know that Energodar was fed from Zaporizhia nuclear power plant. So my question is about the civilians, the civil inhabitants, and in view of the fact that the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant is not operating now, it doesn't really matter, because it could happen in a number of ways. So people in Energodar, they don't have either power supply or heat supply or hot water supply. Is there a similar situation in Varash, for example, or other settlements, other towns which depend on Rivne nuclear power plant? And did you think about some backup option in case, God forbid, but in case anything happens to Rivne nuclear power plant? Well, thank you for the question. I'm telling you, the Rivne nuclear power plant provides 9 regions